What's going on, digital world? Welcome back to another episode this week of the Web Buzz podcast, joined by the Google Nader himself, buried deep in the basement. We get him off an island, and look what happens. He gets shoved to the basement.
Yeah. I am in the basement, but you know what? It's all good, man. It's a nice, cool. I'm not used to basements. I'm from the West Coast, so this is transitioning over to the East Coast. Currently, I'm actually visiting family in the Midwest here in St. Louis. So this basement thing, I'm loving it. It's like a bonus room, man. You guys are lucky. I know you're from Ohio, so you're used to this. I am not.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, I should say I grew up living in the basement. That's how much my parents cared for me. My room was down there, but I loved it. I had all the space in the world, and it kind of is. It's kind of like bonus space for a house, as long as it's dry. That's the key. The basement has to be dry.
I've heard some really bad stories about basements and what can potentially happen. Obviously, we do a lot of stuff in real estate investing, and these are some of the major pieces of content, right? We talk about content all the time, but this is the type of stuff that always our clients are looking to solve for, and those pain points they're always trying to add value to. But yeah, man, I'm in the basement. I'm stoked. I'm ready to go, and yeah.
So before we dive into today's topic, you guys see it's right here beneath us. We're going to be talking about, is SEO worth the investment? Do we get an ROI on it? Does it actually generate leads? Like, what? We're going to break down kind of some ways to think about this, but I'm curious what you guys think. So as you're joining us live, go ahead and throw it in the comment. You're watching this later out there somewhere. Throw it in the comment what you think. Is it worth it or not? And then take a listen to the episode and kind of hear some of our thoughts around it and see if that maybe changes your spin or your take on it. But before we dive into that, Roger, give us a quick update. You've been back home now, right? I'm calling it back home because you're back to the real America, not the island out in no man's land anymore. How's the transition? How's the house? How's things going? Really, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, no. We've it was a long transition and still going, right? We're still trying to kind of get things kind of set up, but no, we went from Guam. We took a little vacation on a couple of the islands in Hawaii. Went to the Big Island and Oahu. Spent some time there, so that was really cool. And then finally made it to Maryland to check in at the new house. Loved the new house. The new house is pretty cool. It's a townhouse. What I'm kind of interested to see, I'm probably going to be in pretty good shape in about 3 months because there's 3 flights of stairs that I have to climb, and my wife was laughing at me because I forget things all the time. So whether it's my wallet, my mask, my keys, oh my God, I'm going upstairs like crazy. But overall, it's good, man. And right now, I took a short flight over to St. Louis before the entire school year for the kids kicks off and everything, to visit some family here with the wife and them. And so that's where I'm at right now, but I'm loving it. I think the kids and the wife, myself, we're really happy to be back, be closer to family and be closer to friends, business partners, clients. I mean, it's been overwhelming wealth of warmth from all around. And I include our clients because one of our clients, which is now good friends of ours, picked me up from the airport, right? So that's how our community works. We're just like a big happy family. So completely happy about that.
Absolutely. And when you're saying, the number of stairs, perfect training opportunity. We've got something fun coming up next summer. Just every time you forget something, put weight on your back and walk up and down. It'll be good.
Oh, absolutely. Guarantee. Guarantee.
So, all right. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into kind of what we're going to talk about. And I know you've got some thoughts on this. I've got some thoughts on this. But before we kind of get too deep into the weeds on it, just kind of go high level. We hear this a lot in this space. SEO is not really worth it. It's not worth it. We hear a lot of people say, I tried that. It didn't work. Or it's just not worth the cost. Or you could totally do it on your own for way less than what it might cost at an agency, to manage it. high level, kind of just speak for a few minutes here on what's your spin on that. Why do you think so many people have kind of a distaste for when they hear SEO?
Yeah, I think there's so many ways to approach this loaded question, Shawn. Thanks, but it is a loaded question. I
Tried to
want to
give you a
open with
softball to get started.
that. You're just kind of out of the park, man. But yeah, I think it's a pretty loaded question for many people, many SEOs and non SEOs, because it goes back to how familiar you are with SEO. And like what kind of assets you have built out for your online presence, right? And overall, even if you have some assets built out for your online presence, maybe a website, maybe even a Google My Business or a social media, profile, whatever it might be, still how much education have you had around that? And I think about this a lot because this question is very common, even though I joke about it right now. It's like, oh, loaded question. I get it like every day, it feels like. And I try to come up with examples to how to explain it. And I'll give one here. And maybe we can get into other ones because it is a little confusing. And if you really think about it, I always try to kind of compare SEO kind of like entering a race, right? So if you were entering a race, it was with cars, not running, but with cars, and you went and bought a brand new car off the lot, brand new car, right? And then you entered a race, but your competitors have a brand new car, but it's been optimized with race wheels and race kind of like seats and motors been optimized to run faster than stock, right? Then you're probably going to lose, right? It's like, but there's more factors as well. Who's driving that car, right? There's so many factors that go into it to determine who's going to eventually win that race. And in SEO, that's basically what you're doing. You're essentially agreeing to enter a race, and your tools in your race car in this case is going to be your online assets, right? And it's not just going to be one thing. There are some assets that are going to be more prominent in this race for you on SEO. And those assets need to be optimized correctly. Let's just kind of keep using some terms here. So hopefully I'll clean those up. What I mean by assets, like let's talk about one of the most important ones, which is your website, right? You can't just have a stock off the lot website, even a brand new one, right? You went and paid 20 grand and it's brand new. It looks beautiful, right? We see this a lot. It looks beautiful, beautiful pictures. But yet the content, right? The optimization, that's going to make it go faster, not just in load speed, but also in explaining and solving your actual buyers, right? Or whoever your client might be. This problem is very slow. It's too stock. It's too general, right? So you get these racers, right, that know what they're doing. Hence me and Shawn, right? We got a little more knowledge around the SEO space. So we take that brand new, website and we optimize it. We solve all these problems through content explaining, and we create curated content that nurtures, the conversation for not trying to sell you now, but keep you and nurturing that relationship to eventually build that trust, which is key, right? Build that trust and eventually convert you into a client. Now, I mentioned those steps because those are a lot of steps. So one of the things that I think puts a sour taste in people's mouth with SEO is that it takes time. And if you don't have time, if you're coming to us for SEO services, or anybody, I'm just saying us because we offer that, but if you're coming to anybody, you're asking those questions and you're coming when you're struggling, then it's not going to work. Why? Because we can't make it happen overnight, right? SEO, and there's a lot of factors even on how fast SEO works, is because it depends on your market. How many people in your market are doing SEO? Shawn, we've gone into markets with clients that it just feels like nobody in their market's doing SEO. We pop up a couple blogs, we build a couple links, and we just optimize the content and the website correctly, and we wait a week, and boom, they're ranking. Other ones, we've waited 6 months. And we've had to have these conversations with the client that it takes time. We're doing it. We're showing the work and we're doing everything. And they're really nervous. And all of a sudden the 6 months hits and it goes into the 7th month. All of a sudden they're happy, big old smiles because they just can't, they keep getting pinged with leads. because they finally broke through, right? They broke through because there was other people doing SEO. So I don't want to go too much because I know we have more, but hopefully that kind of gives everybody a little bit of a snapshot of it's not just doing SEO. It's a process.
Absolutely. And that's actually the one I was going to kind of add. Why do I think so many people question, is SEO worth it? It's the time commitment that goes into it. I've talked about this on past episodes. We want instant gratification of our marketing dollars, right? We spend money. We want to see results pretty quickly. And SEO, it's not the quick fix, right? It's not a valve that gets turned on and boom, immediately because you dropped, whatever, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 into an SEO campaign. It doesn't result in results next week. Yes, we've had those lucky clients, like you just said, where competition in the space, other competitors aren't focusing on it, so they're gonna get results quicker. But if you're in an industry or you're in a marketplace that has some competition around it, people are focusing a little bit on, I love your analogy, right? It's like you're trying to drag race on a track where there's actually some pretty fast cars in that area. You're going to have to fine tune some things. You're going to have to be like on the mark, have the fastest reaction time off that tree, really maybe push the speed and be comfortable at a higher speed than the other driver to edge them out. Whereas if you're competing in a track that, it's a bunch of amateurs, they're just getting started, there isn't really a deep pool of competition there. Well, you're not going to have to try as hard that night. You can have the little longer reaction time. You don't have to push the gas, as hard and feel as safe in the car. You can kind of take it easy and still probably come out, faring out pretty well. That I think is the big piece of it. So, and I know I've got two kind of points that I want to go deep into that, but I want to kind of get your spin here first on what you kind of, when I brought this topic up to you, like what clicked in you, what did you find, what did you want to push out there to everybody here today?
Yeah, just kind of looking at it, because like I said at the beginning here, we get this question a lot, and it does revolve around how familiar you are with this topic of SEO, and is it worth it? And I always have to go back to the different factors: industry, your budget. There's so many factors that have to go into it. But if at the end of those conversations, it doesn't matter. I'll be honest with you. Every conversation I have around this, where we have to get deep and we have to analyze what they currently have going on too, right? Because you can't just say it doesn't work. It's like, well, let's analyze your situation, your website, your assets, everything that has to do with your online presence, and let's see why you think that. And every time we nail it, it means their assets are very low quality. And in most cases, they follow the old website development methodology, or even the old online presence methodology, where you build it once and you leave it alone for 2-3 years, and then you proclaim that SEO doesn't work, right? Or the online presence doesn't work, or a website doesn't work, but yet you haven't looked at it in years, right? So in our methodology, it's all about consistency. You got to keep pinging, you got to keep improving your existing content. So I'll go with that. I think it's still 100% relevant, and it's only getting stronger. And I know in some of these topics we're going to get into, you're going to see why. SEO is becoming one of those things that it seemed there was a lot of content. Funny enough, there was a lot of SEO optimized content talking about that SEO was dead, which didn't make any sense, right? A couple of years ago. And now it's becoming a very prominent piece of your online marketing.
You say that, and it makes me think of all the people that run Facebook ads talking about Facebook ads are dead, and let me teach you how to do YouTube ads or LinkedIn ads.
Exactly.
They're running a Facebook ad to get your attention about that.
Exactly.
Anything else that you got?
No. I wanna dive into these questions because I'll have plenty to say on these two topics that we talked about before the show, cool. And I think that's where we're going to get more of the value from.
Okay, so the first one that I'm gonna bring out here, and I want you guys to think about this as I say this, right? When we look at SEO, at the end of the day, is SEO worth it? Simple answer, 100% yes. 100% yes. Now, I'll throw a caveat. I'm curious to see what Roger's take is on this one. Depending on your industry, it may not be as important as another industry. Certain industries, SEO is super, super relevant and super important, whereas other ones, it's kind of the icing on the cake, right? You can maybe get by without it. But there are some industries, especially the industry we work a lot with, real estate investors, real estate professionals, where you've got to focus on this. Okay, so short answer, yes. I'll throw that caveat. You may not need as much depending on kind of your, and not just even the industry, the level of business you're trying to run. If you're happy with just a handful of opportunities and a small amount of revenue every year, cool. Maybe you don't need to, but if you're trying to make a larger operation, this is going to be an area that you're going to need to focus on. The part that I wrote down though was need products. And I want that to sink in here for a second. Ask yourself, what do you think I mean when I say need products? Products that are needed are the ones that do incredibly well when they dial in and focus on the SEO side. What do I mean by this? If I'm driving my car and I get into an accident, and I don't personally have like an auto body shop that I'm going to want to take my car to if this happens. It's not like I go out and think about this prior to the accident. But an accident happens, and let's say I'm 8 hours from my house. Well, I don't know any body mechanics in that area personally. What am I going to end up doing? Jumping on Google, looking up an auto body shop in the area that can handle the repairs. Say I got a flat tire. I need somebody to help fix that in the moment. I'm going to look up, doing some Google searches, what are some of the shops around? Real estate. I'm about to hit foreclosure. I'm going through a divorce. I'm experiencing bankruptcy. And I need to let loose of the house. Where am I doing the research to figure out what are my options and who is going to be able to help me? I'm sure not going to take my problem and go to my friend and say, hey, Roger, I'm about to get foreclosed on. Who would you recommend? Right? Unless I've got an incredibly close relationship with Roger to feel comfortable having that conversation, chances are I'm grabbing my phone, my tablet, my laptop, and I need something right now, and that's what I'm looking up. If your business falls into that category where when they need you, they need you, that is the business that does very, very well when they focus on the SEO side. So I'll kick it over to you to kind of elaborate and take this, put your spin on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the first thing I'll say, I think you nailed it. It's like if the need product, obviously going into a market, that type of avatar that needs a certain product that you have and you can benefit. I guess what I was going to come at you with was ask just the general question to our listeners, right? Could you benefit from being the first person to be seen when your product comes up? In general, either offline, online, doesn't matter, right? Could you benefit from that? And then you start kind of going down the line. All right, well, what are you doing already offline to try to benefit from that? Are you putting ads on the billboards? Are you putting bandit signs on the corner of streets? Are you going to the laundromat and putting a little banner on, that little tag that they have on there? What are you doing? And then online, right? Because we all know that the shift, and that's not us saying it, but there was a big shift last year, and now you have double, if not triple, the amount of people that know how to use the internet. That was not a thing, right? We talked about on one of our other podcasts where technology had to speed up like 5 years. What should have happened 5 years from now happened in a year. So now the amount of people
overnight,
right, almost overnight. So you got to always have, I think every business needs to think about that, right? And then it goes back to the supply and demand, right? It's as simple as that. The supply and demand for your particular service or product. I'll tell you a little story here that I think is pretty relevant to this topic that we're in right now, that hit me almost at a personal level, but at the same time, kind of because we work with a lot of these people, and sometimes it's questioned if it's a product, a service, what are we doing, which is real estate investors, right? It's like, well, what do you do? Well, you buy houses, and when you're looking for those people in distress situations, how do you find them? And then there's a lot of stigma behind that industry that these companies have to work through, because sometimes it's looked at as someone trying to take advantage of a situation when in reality, Shawn, you were a real estate investor. I've been in the business for a long time on the digital side, right, on the marketing side, and we stand strong with real estate investors because we understand what they do, and we help them market their business. And that's what we specialize, try to get that message out there that you are a helper. And the story I want to get to here is I just finished transitioning from Guam to the mainland over here. But in the middle, we stopped in Hawaii. And in my younger years, I spent about 7 years, 6.5, 7 years on the Big Island of Hawaii. I moved there, I worked there, and I have a very close niche set of friends there. And when I was there, if you guys are familiar with the Big Island, there's a little town or village called Waikoloa Village. And it's on they call it Malka side. It's on the mountain side because there's Waikoloa Beach as well. Well, Waikoloa Village set on fire while I was there. Big fire, to the point where some of the roads that we're trying to get to were closed down, and big smoke and everything. And funny enough, not funny enough, but as I was listening to the radio, and they were saying, oh man, now it's taken on 2 homes. You know, it's like we're trying to evacuate people. Well, man, my mind went straight to the heart, to help those people. It's like, oh my God, hope they get out safe, everything. And then you start thinking, and just because of the industry that we're in, the people we deal with real estate investors, I already know the financial effect that these people are going to go through, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to need help. And these people they're in distress situations. They're going to need someone to help them, guide them through getting out of that situation. They have a fire damaged home now, right? And first thing I started thinking is like, man, I hope someone has an easy way for these people to get information quick that can guide them through the process and help them kind of get to their next stage, because that's a huge hit. And that's what you need to look at in your business. It's like, what is the pain? What are you trying to solve for? Because if you can think of those pain points and you have good content, forget about SEO. Just look at your process. What do you do that's unique to solve a certain situation? That is SEO, guys. There is no trick to it. It's you looking for what you're trying to solve, what your product or service solves, creating really good guides and helpful content, and the clients will come, right? That's when we talk about SEO optimization. We're helping clients basically address find who that avatar ideal client is, and then ask them what's that person, that ideal client's pain points. Let's create helpful content so you can build that trust, and Google naturally will see that. But not only that, that's going to help you with your rankings. But that's why Google is then takes those websites, those clients, and puts them on top of the rankings, obviously, right? What's horrible is that you got people trying to it's called gaming the system, and trying to do these black hat things, really low content that gives no value to the user, and they rank high. Well, guess what? The new algorithms that are coming in, not just now, but in the future on Google, they're getting really good. They're knocking those people down. So the people that we work with, that we help optimize the websites, that are taking a stock race car and packing it with the right stuff, are starting to see results. So I guess I probably went on a long tangent there, but moral of the story: if you can benefit from being that solution online, then SEO is worth it all day.
You deserved it. You deserved it on that one. But I'm gonna take that and I want to expand a little bit more on what you just said. And I'm speaking directly to if you're more the real estate investor, right? I know we've tried to keep the show at times kind of more broad, but I want to take this and really hone it in at the real estate investor on this particular topic. And here's why. What Roger just said was absolute gold and 100% true. And for some reason, non-real estate investor businesses get that. They understand it. I see a gap. I see for some reason real estate investors struggle with understanding that at the end of the day, their business is not buying a home or fixing and flipping a home. Their business is that situational consulting, that situational kind of hand holding, the expert in how to help those individuals that are in a need situation. That is really your business. You are in the business of helping people in a distressed real estate situation and navigating them through that process. And by doing such, you acquire an asset that the backside of your business, a secondary element of it, is designed for, right? The fix and flip, the buy and hold, the wholesale and give to somebody else who can take that asset and move it along the path. I don't know what it is. I don't know what we got to do to beat this into enough investors' heads to understand, but we know this from our own clients. Those that are showing up, ranking well, gaining a lot of leads, getting a lot of business happening in their business are the ones that are really focused on being solution providers, not just trying to buy a house, not just trying to acquire the next asset. They're really focused in providing the best solution for the person in need in the moment. Again,
Absolutely.
I wish there was a switch that we could just turn on and have people get it. But if you're listening to this, watching this, whatever, and you're in that type of business, a real estate professional of some sort, start think, how do you got to shift your own mindset around it? And I think maybe the second point will help shift that piece on there. But at the end of the day, that is your job. Your job is to provide a service, help somebody in need by being that go-to expert. And the SEO elements and factors and the assets and all the stuff that we've talked about on this show and we'll continue to talk about on this show are a huge, huge factor to it. So the next question that I wrote down, and not really even a question, I guess it is a question because I'm going to ask you guys out there, but it's something to think about on here, is when we ask this question of is SEO worth it, I always come back with what's the average customer, what's the average solution providing service that you put out there, what's the average return on that? Meaning, if I've got a distressed seller in bankruptcy and I can help them through that, get rid of their asset, their home, at a fair price, not have to go into bankruptcy on it, not take that ding on it, and I can then turn and do something with that deal, what's that value? Is it 20 grand? Is it 30 grand? Is it 50 grand? Obviously, depending on your market, that's going to vary. But that's the question you guys got to start asking yourself. And here's why. Roger, you tell me, what's the average SEO package per year, right? Let's say they were working with us. What's an average price at like premium, really dialed in on your SEO? What's the investment?
Looking at it, well, I'm making sure I wasn't muted. So you're looking at about, just roughly about 23 to 25,000, right? On average per year, guys. This is per year. So, you got to look at, to Shawn's point, that question is a great, that should be the first thing that you should be thinking about, because if you're trying to, push back on marketing when you don't even know what your client, acquisition is worth, then that's a big mistake, because you're not going to be able to grow. You can't it's hard to take in money, provide a service, and not take that money and reinvest to grow. You can always take it in, you always stay right there, maybe, right? And it's never very high, because it's hard, because you're just might as well go get a job, because you're paycheck to paycheck, right? That's all that looks like. So what you're trying to do is figure out what marketing, what elements you have to put into play that you can reinvest in, that will give you that next level, right? And Shawn and I know this very well, just not only from the companies that we've run and built and run, but also from working with hundreds, if not thousands, of entrepreneurs, right? At this point, consulting with them, looking at their businesses. But there is levels, right? We understand you won't be able to drop $100,000 on SEO this year, right? But you might be able to push, 20, 25,000, but that's going to take you to that next level. Even if you're not there, right? If you're even lower than that, it's okay. You just have to have the conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, when I bring that up, right, let's say we're going to invest, let's say it's 25 grand, right? Simple numbers, especially for our real estate folks. If I'm looking at a marketing budget, and I'm going to allocate $25,000 over here towards this campaign, in this case, an SEO focused campaign, I probably will see more than one opportunity come out of that. And let's say my average rehab profit, I buy, fix, and flip, and my average rehab profit is 25, 30,000. My investment of 25,000 into the SEO, if it just gave me one deal for the year, it paid itself. Now I get it. We got to pay that up front, right? Not 25 grand at a time. Most of the time it's a monthly budget. So there's money that has to be allocated out. But maybe you're in a position, you're looking at it going, all right, I've got a deal that's about to wrap up. I'm going to make 25 or 30 grand. Maybe we're going to allocate that money towards my SEO campaign, because I know that if my average profit's 25 grand, it's going to cost me 25,000 in SEO services for the year. I probably am safe to say I'm going to see 2, 3, 4 opportunities throughout the course of 12 months that stem from that focused effort. So by pushing back and going, well, SEO costs too much, or SEO is not worth it, it doesn't give me instant ROI, you're basically saying you don't feel comfortable paying 25,000 to potentially have 100,000 in profit. Right? You won't pay $25 to make $100. You won't pay $2.50 to make $10. All we're doing is adding zeros here. The mentality is the same.
Absolutely, man. You're nailing it right there, and you kind of struck another nerve on the SEO side for me, because it's you talk like we're going to invest today, right? Present value, and we have all been to math class. Not all of us were good in math, but some of us had to work at it.
I'm only good when it's tens, like 10% of this.
But the compound kind of like portion of it is something I want to point out, and that's where I'm talking about kind of hits a little bit of an SEO nerve for me, because I want everybody to take this as a big takeaway from this podcast, is the present value of the SEO effort that you do today will give you double next year. I'm going to let that marinate. And the reason I say that, and this is the misconception, it gets compared to paid ads, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, all this money. Paid ads, your present value, right? What you're doing now is going to give you a value, but as soon as you stop paying for your paid ads, those stop, you disappear. SEO, the more you invest, the better it gets. It's like a fine wine. The more you let it sit there, the better it gets, right? It gets stronger, gets better. As that's what SEO is, as long as you're doing it correctly. And that's one of the things that I consult with our clients all the time, and I talk to people, and we do trainings on this, because a lot of people struggle to get out of the gate, right? Get out of the gate with with an SEO campaign. But once they get out of the gate, I love having those first couple months, because they're a struggle just to get them there. But as soon as they see that first ranking, not even the first lead, we're not talking, as soon as they start noticing that the needle is moving in the rankings, they see that the stuff that we're doing actually works, man, the smiles start flying. But when they get their first lead, oh man, that's awesome for us, right? As an agency, as them, as clients getting their first lead. And all that is doing, all that hard work, all that investment is just that's the beginning, guys. You're not going to get one. It's like next year, it's just going to get stronger, right? As you do more and more, that assets get stronger. It's like going to the gym and working out a muscle. It keeps getting bigger and bigger. Well, in SEO, that SEO power, that trust, not only with Google, because the more trust you have with Google, with your content, the way you're doing it, everything that we're talking about here, it gets really strong. But if Google keeps putting you in front of more and more people, that means more and more people are seeing you. That means more and more people are talking about your brand. And that means you're probably getting more and more leads. And that's the phenomenon behind SEO. It takes time, but once it goes, another big, I love that there's so many analogies, right? Or examples, but it's like a flywheel. It's like a big, heavy flywheel. We're trying to kind of move it. It's really heavy. But once you get it going, it's so heavy that it starts spinning on its own. It starts spinning really fast. And that's basically SEO.
You made me think of The Price is Right.
Exactly.
They're trying to pull that wheel down.
Yep.
But once they get it past that point, man, that sucker just spins and spins and spins and spins. And the only reason it slows down is there's little tickers kind of creating that friction, right?
Exactly. And you know what? Those tickers, you know what those are? Your competition. Mm-hmm. So the competition is always going to try to slow you down. They're going to try to catch up to you. And that's why you got to have a consistent SEO campaign. That way you don't get slowed down. Imagine if there was no tickers, no competition, that wheel will probably spin for a while, right? But since there are tickers, there are competition, reality, real world, there are going to be people trying to, do the same thing as you. So that's why you have to kind of have consistency.
Absolutely. So I think that's a good spot to actually end today.
I promised myself, Shawn, I wouldn't add a last thing or topic or thought, because I don't want. We're gonna leave it here. We're gonna leave it. We'll save it for next time. If you guys wanted to see what's in my head and I was gonna get Shawn going, tune in next week.
All right, I'm gonna keep us moving forward before I end up sucking it out of you and keeping this going. But anything you want to leave everybody with?
The only thing I'll leave you with is just get out there and add value to your online presence, guys. If you guys are entrepreneurs, business owners, and you're offering a service, a product, and you're really trying to truly help people, there's some services, like I said, my experience. I do this for a living, SEO. That's portion. That's what I'm known for. That's what I do every day. And when I went through that experience in Hawaii, kind of set me back, kind of humbled me a little bit. So I do encourage you guys that there are people that need help in certain situations. So if you offer something like that, get that content out there. That's the only way they're going to find you. If it's a product, a fun product, guys, you can also think of it that way. I have kids. I have 2 little girls. They love toys. They love going to places. If you own a play place, if you have a product for kids or whatever it might be, you have to build content for us to find you. We can't find you other way. So hopefully that kind of helps you guys out to get out there, start creating some valuable content on your online presence.
Absolutely. And as I say every single week, if you've been tuning into this show on a consistent basis and you want more out of your online presence, you're trying to figure out what are the next moves, what's the next steps, how does this all fit together? You got a couple options, but we made it pretty easy for you. Just head over to topresultsconsulting.com/7. That'd be the number 7 and the word steps all together. So topresultsconsulting.com/7 steps. We'll go ahead and link that up in show notes as well. If you're post listening or watching, just head down to the notes section, comment section, and you will find that link. But as I say every single week, until we see you guys back here next week, Roger will not be in the basement next week. Actually, I don't know. Maybe you'll be in the basement of the new house now.
Kind of, but there's windows.
Oh, okay. So it won't feel like a basement.
Exactly.
But until we see you guys back here next week, as I tell you every single week, here's to your success. We'll see you guys later.